Thanks. I'd like to, as co-producer, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and all our speakers, Lee Israel, Jill Sutter, Dana Rasso. Awesome. Let's give them a hand. And now I have to break the bad news to you, because I'm here tonight to debunk a lie that we're told and that we all tell ourselves. You are not going to be famous. There, I said it. Now some of you I see, you're playing it cool and you're saying, I don't know what he's talking about. I know I'm not going to be famous. I don't even want to be famous. I just moved to the most crowded and unforgiving city in the country for the affordable housing and the mayoral term limits. But I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I know you want to be famous. I know because I've seen your MySpace page. Skeleton Witch. I'm sorry, I just wanted to pick a typical MySpace page. This doesn't look like a MySpace page, but the band's name is Skeleton Witch. But anyway, to prove that it's a MySpace page, and I've also seen your playlist. And I want to know who would record a song like Sacrifice for the Slaughter God, if not to become fabulously and ridiculously famous. And I've seen your YouTube channels. I've seen yours, Michelle Phan, writer, director, and star of Basic Smoky Eye Tutorial. Don't tell me that you aren't waiting for Hollywood to come calling so that you can apply your basic smoky eyes to everyone. And I've also, in addition to your MySpace pages and your YouTube, I've been to your sad little lecture readings, little lectures, which are always held, it seems, in some beer-soaked basement way out in the boroughs. I think we know who we're talking about. That's right. When I say you, I also mean me. Because who among us has not looked at the tanned, happy faces in the pages of Us Weekly and thought, sure, stars might be just like us, but when, oh when, am I going to be just like them? That such a transformation seems likely to occur at any moment is, I contend, given tonight's topic, America's big lie, which keeps us all, or at least many of us in this city, and indeed in this room, held in a sort of suspended animation as we wait, Lana Turner-like, for fame to swoop down upon us. But why do we believe it? Why does fame seem so accessible and even inevitable? Why do 51% of 18 to 25-year-olds say that to be famous is among their generation's greatest goals? That's true. USA Today. Rich, famous, help people who need help, 30%. You know, they admire Bono, but for the wrong reasons. Well, I think there are two reasons why we think this is coming for all of us. First, children are now exposed to harrowing levels of fame. The average child watches 24 hours of television per week. If they're exposed to just one celebrity for every hour of TV they watch, that's 1,300 celebrities per year. When you consider that these children are regularly exposed to 1,300 celebrities and just 2 boring, unglamorous nobodies, I'm of course talking about their parents. My parents are here tonight. It's no wonder that many of us have grown up with the vague feeling that we've been born into an oppressed minority, the unfamous, from which we'll soon and justly be delivered. But the second factor in our pervasive feeling of impending fame is, I think, an explosion in the supply of fame itself. Consider, for example, this exhaustive list of famous people from the 16th century. This is way before media fragmentation. I mean, people think the MASH finale had big ratings. I mean, he was very popular. The 17th century made way for some challenger brands, Galileo. The 18th century, Jesus still very important, but we've added Mozart because we always love a prodigy, right, Brittany? And we got to have the bad guy, the Marquis de Sade, kind of the OJ of his day. The 19th century, still more fame. Sitting Bull, Mark Twain, Jesse James, not Jesse Jubilee. The 20th century, huge for fame. This isn't exhaustive, but it's close. I ran short of the room. There's Hitler, of course, Yogi Berra. Jesus is still there, right there between Vincent Price and Captain Kangaroo. Then comes fame in the 21st century. Now, looking at this list, it's pretty easy to think, how hard could it possibly be? We've got Gary Busey, Chris Crocker, Katy Perry, Audrina Patridge. This impression that fame is easy has been reinforced, meanwhile, by the mainstream media, which has recently written a flurry of articles about how Warholian fame will soon be available to everyone, or at least to Julie Allison. If you don't know who that is, it only proves my point, which, if you forgot, is that you are not going to be famous. While attempting to determine the microscopically slim chances of someone, any one of us, becoming famous, I first had to answer a simple question. How many famous people are there? And I actually, believe it or not, came up with an answer. There are 4,536 famous people. How did I arrive at this? That's how many celebrities the company ePoll Market Research tracks in its eScore database. If you're unfamiliar with them, they're kind of a competitor with the Q scores that you might have heard of, except that the Q scores don't play nice with former trade journalists, and ePoll does. So they were able to play along with my little thing, because who needs to be famous when you have that kind of power? So at first I thought this would just be the starting point, that this number would represent only the most famous of the famous. But then I drilled down and discovered that ePoll's database, this 4,536 people, includes hundreds of people I've never heard of, not to mention former single host Chris Hardwick, and both Click and Clap. In other words, I believe this number includes everyone with even a shred of usable fame. But fame, like wealth, is not evenly distributed. ePoll actually sent me this. I did not build this. I'm very happy. As you can see, ePoll assigns an awareness score to each person in their database, which is a combination of their face recognition and name recognition scores. As you can see here, only 2% of the people in their database, or about 90 people, have an awareness score greater than 80%, while 43%, or almost 2,000 so-called celebrities, have an awareness score of 10% or less. In plain English, that means your chances of becoming famous depend on how famous you'd like to be. Your chances of becoming famous as Lindsay Lohan? 1 in 1.6 million. Your chances of becoming famous as Stephen Baldwin? 1 in 602,409. Let me say that again. Your chances of becoming as famous as Stephen Baldwin are 1 in 600,200, whatever. And perhaps more depressing, the chances of you becoming as famous as Heidi from the Hills are 1 in 116,054. And overall, your chances of becoming famous at all, or famous enough to be included in ePoll's database, which includes, as near as I can tell, everyone who has ever appeared on VH1 and Bret Easton Ellis, is 1 in 66,137. Which doesn't sound that bad, until you realize that it's only slightly better than your chances of being killed by lightning. But slightly worse than your chances of being put to death by legal execution. Statistics for illegal execution were not available. So how does this make you feel? You, before tonight, were counting on being famous. Disappointed? Angry? Relieved, maybe? Personally, I'm relieved, or trying to stick with relieved. When I was 30, I was relieved to give up on being cool. And as 40 now approaches, I'm really looking forward to giving up on being successful. And what if we all gave up on being famous? Who knows what we could do with all the money we'd save on guitar lessons and writing workshops and improv classes? Maybe we would move a little further down the list. You remember this list? And become leaders in our communities, or help people who need help, or even, become more spiritual. At the very least, we could set our sights just a little lower to amusing a few dozen people, or being amused in a beer-soaked basement way out in the boroughs. And while we're there, going about our business, Lana Turner-like, maybe, just maybe, although it is extremely unlikely, someone will notice us. So why don't you give yourselves a hand?